Hey guys, welcome to From the Roots Up and welcome to day 5 of our Every Bit Counts challenge, and today we are making hash browns. So the first step in making hash browns is we have to shred up our potatoes. So we have our KitchenAid shredder thingy that we are going to be putting the potatoes in. If you don't have one of those, you can use just a regular cheese grater. That works fine. It is a bit slower, but it works just as well, and it's not even that slow if you're just making this for like one meal. We're making this for a good amount of hash browns. So let's get started. So we've already washed our potatoes, and there are a few of them that had some bad spots, so we did cut those out, which was not hard, but it's very hard to pick out little shreds of bad spots, so we just went ahead and did that beforehand. And you can peel them or you can not peel them. We are not peeling them this time just for time's sake, but if you prefer it, you can peel them. So we're gonna go ahead and put these in here.
Okay, so we got our blade in here. We're going to turn this on low. It doesn't need to be up on level 10 hyperdrive warp speed flying through space with Chewbacca, right? We're just going to get this going on 2 or 3 is fine. We drop the potatoes in. There's a piece I tossed in already that's starting to go, but we're going to let this thing just start shooting out our little potato shards, right? That's what it should look like. It looks like a good thick shredded cheese. And we're just going to keep going until we get through this pile. So load the next one up. If you see a big chunk, if you notice it fall in, you can grab it out real fast and run it back through. Sometimes the thin pieces, especially because we left the peels on, will kind of slide down underneath the grate and then just slide out the front. But if it makes it into your hash browns and you cook it, it's fine. It's a little potato chip, right? But if you catch it, just throw it back in and give it another chance. Alright, turn that off. Because this knob just slides back and forth on and off, and it can get bumped easy, I'm going to unplug it before I do anything else, because we don't want a finger to accidentally get in this thing when it's going. But I'm going to pull the cutting cup, the grate, I'm sure there's an official name for this, and I'm going to offend somebody when I don't know it. Pull this out and get the bits out. Okay. And there we have. Now? What?
Are you British now? Get the bits out.
All right, there we have roughly 10 pounds of baking potatoes that are no longer for baking. So it's going to be a little less than 10 pounds because we cut a few chunks out of some of them, but it's going to be pretty close. Typically, a serving size for hash browns for a family of 4 would be somewhere between a pound to a pound and a half. That's fairly easy. If you're just baking potatoes, you grab 4 potatoes. But now that we've completely lost count of how many they are, we are going to measure these out so that we get them in serving sizes. So what we're going to do is use our scales and figure out about a pound and a half so that we can set aside our serving sizes. Now, another thing that you could do, we're not going to, is take and blanch these potatoes. Blanching is bringing water to a boil, putting them in very quickly, only for a minute or so, and it starts the cooking process. What it does is it kills off the enzymes that are going to help your food start breaking down, and it's beneficial. Where are we at? We're at only 15 ounces. This is going to be a tall pile. I should have gotten a bigger plate. If you're trying to put your food back for a longer period of time, then it does help keep them fresh longer. We are not blanching these only because a 10-pound bag of potatoes that we put back in pound-and-a-half size bags is only going to be 7 or so servings for us, and they're not going to keep that long. We like potatoes and we will eat them, and so we're going to skip that step. That is 1 pound 7 ounces. Let's top it off with one more. Bloop. Okay, that's almost a pound 8 ounces. So this is going to be about a serving size for us. We're going to skip the blanching process, but we are going to flash freeze them. And what I mean by flash freeze is we're going to take this cookie sheet, and we're going to spread these out on it, and we're going to go put this straight in the freezer. We're not going to bag it up yet. And what's going to happen is these little shreds are going to freeze. I'm not going to say that they're going to freeze individually. They're still clumped together a little too much for that, but they're not going to freeze in one big ball, which is what will happen if we put a wet mess of potatoes straight into a Ziploc bag. Now, if you don't have space in your freezer to do this, and we only barely do because we're still early in the Every Bit Counts challenge, and so we haven't filled our freezer up this summer. Because we have room to do it, we're going to take advantage of that. If you don't have room to do it, it's okay, don't worry about it. Throw it in a bag, throw it in the freezer. When you go to use it, take it out the night before and let it thaw, and then you won't have a big ball of ice that you're trying to work with. But we're going to stick this in the freezer, and we will have to do this to about 7 batches. I think we can probably fit 3 at a time. We might be able to make space in the other freezer and get a little more than that. But we're going to go do that, and then we will show you how to bag them up once they're frozen. Okay, we're back. Our potatoes were a little too thick on the pans to freeze in the hour that we gave them. We decided, instead of staying up super late checking them and waiting, that we would just let them freeze overnight. So here we are the next morning, and we're going to get these bagged up. So one thing you may notice on our platter of potatoes is we're starting to get this nice brown color. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'll explain that in just a second. They're still perfectly fine and perfectly usable. Taylor, do you know what causes the browning on potatoes?
Enzymes.
Enzymes, yes. So potatoes, as soon as they're exposed to the air, enzymes are going to start this process, and it's going to turn them a little brown. Now, it'd be different if we had left them out for a week. They're probably not just brown, they're probably moldy and nasty, and don't do that. But a few things that you can do if you want to save the coloration. There's nothing wrong with them, they're just fine, and we're going to eat them like this. But number one, I mentioned earlier blanching them. Blanching is a way to kill those enzymes, and that gives you more time to work with them and get them in the freezer before they start turning colors. Another way is because the oxygen, just being exposed to the oxygen, is kind of what wakes those little enzyme guys up to start doing their job. If you're cutting potatoes, if you're cubing potatoes, even if you're shredding it like this, if you want to, shred them into a bowl of water. If they stay submerged underwater, no oxygen, right? So that's going to slow down the process of them starting to brown. Also, adding something that is acidic. Some people use like lemon juice, and that will stop the enzymes from kind of doing their thing. But we're not worried about any of that. We pulled our tray out of the freezer. We're okay with the brown. Label it really well, because when you shred it the way we did, and it's got a brown color, and then it's frozen in a bag with a little frost on the outside, it does look a lot like ground beef. So maybe that's because I'm colorblind and I don't see red very good. It probably doesn't look like ground beef to anybody else. They do to me. So label the packages. Because these are on here a little thick, okay, they did freeze together a little bit, but we have the opportunity to solve that while we're getting it into our bag. And what I'm doing is just prying up the chunks. And again, we're using vacuum seal bags. I already sealed up the bottom of this one. You could also just use freezer Ziploc bags, but we're going to drop these in, and kind of like when you go down to the gas station and you buy that big bag of ice and it's one frozen solid block. The first thing you do when you're ready to use it is take it out on the concrete and slam it down and start breaking those ice cubes back up, right? Well, all we're going to do is give it a couple of good thumps, and our little potato shards just start breaking apart in the bag for us. Load it up with a few more here. Now, I've not had any problem smacking these bags on the counter like this. If you decide to take like a meat tenderizer and start hammering on it, then probably going to damage the bag. You're probably going to punch little holes everywhere. It probably won't even vacuum seal, and if it does, it may not last in the freezer as well. So, but this works just fine. All right, Taylor, you want to stick that in and seal it up? Just wait. Okay, I grab it. All right, there we have it. 1.5 pound bag frozen hash browns. I'm going to label it. And we'll add this to our stash. So there we have it. 6 family-sized frozen bags of hash browns ready to grab. Throw in the skillet at a moment's notice. Thank you for joining us on day 5 of the Every Bit Counts Challenge. I hope you enjoyed this, got an idea. Again, if you want the coloration to go away, there's some steps that you could take. We're just not worried about it. Be sure and like and subscribe and all of those fun buttons below. Let us know in the comments how you like your hash browns. Sometimes we just serve them in a pile. Sometimes we form them into patties. Sometimes maybe there's a sauce you like dipping them in or something. Or just potatoes, you can do a lot with them. Let us know, and we'll see you next time. All right, give the opening spiel. Who are we, what are we doing today, and why are we doing it?
Who are we, what are we doing today, and why are we doing it?